I've seen some of the controversy, people speaking on the stoppage and things like that with Herb after I kicked Alex in the hip and it appeared to be a low blow. Just protect yourself at all times, you know. Just protect yourself at all times and pay attention and stay focused at all times. I took no damage. He's able to land some shots and kind of throw my equilibrium off on the other side, but I was coherent the whole time throughout and through for the most part. We moving forward. I'm gonna put it on this next guy, Khalil Roundtree.
No brain damage? Kicked his hip? Okay, I'm not going to make any jokes, so this is just going to be a straightforward reaction to what Jamahal Hill had to say about his loss to Alex Pereira. Bro, he was at least for a second. We all know he got knocked out, and now we all know that he's going to be fighting Khalil Roundtree in about 2 months, which is never ideal for most fighters. You know, they won't want to come back 2 months after getting knocked out, but on Jamahal Hill's account, he says that he didn't get damaged. He said he was aware the whole time. He just lost his equilibrium and stuff. He remembers everything that was going on. And the kick, he said he kicked him in the hip, not necessarily low. Unless he's saying he kicked the hip and then it went low somehow. But that's just not true. We can all clearly see that Jamahal Hill did not kick a hip unless Pereira has a third hip. That's a wild thing to call that. It was obviously a low blow. You can even hear it as it hit the cup and see it clearly on video. And we also do know that Jamahal Hill did get knocked out for a split second. His eyes rolled to the back of his head. Like, this is not like making jokes or exaggerating what happened. You can clearly see, we can all clearly see that Jamahal Hill got KO'd by that left hook. His eyes literally rolled to the back of his head. Unless he was trying to like look at his brain or something, see what's going on back there. Oh, my brain's whipping back and forth like one of those door stoppers you played with as a kid. He woke up as he hit the ground, but he wasn't defending himself because he wasn't all there. And this is a very dangerous precedent because it seems like Jamahal Hill believes he didn't get damaged, so therefore he can fight in 2 months against Bangkok-ready Khalil Roundtree. That guy is a monster, a knockout artist, a very dangerous opponent to take up on these kind of circumstances. I mean, do you see the way this guy tries to end his opponents? Bro's catapulting his arms, and he was about to drop the mother of all hammer fists on top of Anthony Smith, who according to Anthony Smith is the greatest fighter of all time. That's not to say that Jamahal Hill can't win. He can absolutely beat Khalil Roundtree. In fact, if he was healthy, not coming off a knockout like this, I would 100% pick Jamahal Hill to beat Khalil Roundtree. But now, it's a tough pick, but I still might go with Jamahal Hill at the end of the day. I think he is the better fighter of the two, but we don't know where his chin is going to be. Jamahal Hill's never been knocked out before. He doesn't suffer a lot of damage in fights. He does a good job of getting away from that, or just knocking out his opponent before anything could even happen. But it's a scary fight, man. It's very, very dangerous, and it's also gonna get people to watch the fight as well, just to see what Jamahal Hill is going to look like, and going up against a monster like Khalil Roundtree. It's definitely gonna end by a knockout. It's gonna be a very exciting fight. I mean, Conor and Chandler's gonna bring all the eyes on that card, but people are gonna be very interested in this Hill and Roundtree fight. But props to Jamahal Hill for admitting that the referee did not mess him up in a sense. It was up to him to defend himself at all times. Now, I don't know if he was implying that he wasn't ready for the left hook of Alex Pereira because he was moving, he was reacting. He threw a punch through his left straight before Pereira threw his left hook. And if he aimed that slightly to the left, he would have caught Alex Pereira and potentially put him down. But Pereira was able to slip his head on the outside of it, time it perfectly, and counter him with the left hook. This was not like Jamahal Hill was completely out of it and just not ready whatsoever for that moment. Clearly shown by his actions in the fight. And here's the thing, when Jamahal Hill says stuff like this, when he says he didn't suffer any damage, when he says he kicked him in the hip, it's gonna make a lot of fans think that he's still concussed or something. CTE has moved in. But he might just be misremembering the fight. Maybe it's his ego talking, perhaps. Whatever it is, it's not a good sign. Whatever it is, it's gonna make people think that Khalil Roundtree has a real good chance of beating him. Jamahal Hill is also saying that he was controlling the fight against Alex Pereira. He was landing the shots that he wanted to land, whereas Alex Pereira wasn't landing necessarily as many variety of strikes against him. Therefore, Hill was controlling the fight. This is not always true. When you're landing more shots because you're throwing more shots, it doesn't necessarily mean you're controlling the fight more. You can look at Anderson Silva's entire MMA career. Most of the time, he's not the guy throwing more strikes and landing more strikes. He's waiting for that moment where he KOs his opponent opponent. Alex Pereira was looking for that moment to knock Jamahal Hill out. And that body jab that even Jamahal Hill admitted was landing on him was a necessary weapon in opening that left hook up. This is exactly what he did against Sean Strickland. Not only can it condition the opponent to lower their right hand, which naturally opens up the left hook to the head, but it also applies pressure. The other strike that Pereira was landing were those lead outside leg kicks. And Jamahal Hill did do a good job of countering those, or at least defending them where they're not landing clean. But to say you're controlling the fight when the fight was only like 3 minutes long and you get knocked out is not good evidence to make people believe you. And it could also make a lot of fans think you're implying that the referee took all of these successes away from you. When Herb Dean stepped in, it was the referee that made you lose control of the fight, or when the referee got involved, you lost focus or whatever, and that's what made you lose control of the fight. Because if you have control of the fight, something had to have caused you to lose control of it. And I wonder if Jamahal Hill is implying that the referee getting involved was the thing that lost him control of the fight. Or was it just that Alex Pereira was in control of the fight all along, and Hill did not even know it? But the thing is, Hill didn't give Pereira like any props at all. He didn't mention how Pereira got him with the left hook. He didn't mention the power that Pereira possesses. Really nothing about anything good Pereira did. It was on him for not protecting himself at all times. That's kind of interesting. Like, you have to give props to Pereira. You have to give him respect for what he did. Again, unless he is implying that the reason he got caught was because Herb Dean stepped in and then he should have protected himself after that. When the reality of the situation is they both were acting after that happened. It wasn't just like Herb Dean stepped in and Pereira leaped in for the left hook and knocked him out immediately before Jamahal Hill could even react at all. It didn't happen like that. Pereira and Jamahal Hill continued to fight. Pereira got closer. They were moving. Pereira feinted in. Hill was extending with his right hand. Hill threw the first committed punch, and Pereira countered him. And talking about building up the fight, and it made a lot of people not like Jamahal Hill, that comes with the territory. One of the fighters sometimes has to play the villain, and Jamahal Hill took up that role against Pereira, who was, the bigger star going into the fight, had a bigger following behind him, more fans behind him, is a pretty good guy and all that stuff, so he's not going to play the villain. And Jamahal Hill's talk did make the fight more interesting. It made the fight more exciting for fans, and it made them pick sides. Like, are you going to go with Pereira or are you going to go with Jamahal Hill? And there's going to be a lot of bragging rights depending on who wins the fight. And unfortunately for Jamahal Hill, he was on the losing end of it. A lot of what he said backfired on him, and that's the name of the game. You just got to move on from that. I don't know about moving on 2 months later. That may be a little too soon, but yeah, it's the name of the game, man. And even though there's going to be a lot of fans who are going to have opinions on Jamahal Hill and where he stacks up in the division and all that stuff, maybe he's not the best fighter, maybe he is the best fighter, whatever it is, everybody respects Hill. And I think Hill doesn't know that. It's just that when he's going up against the best fighters in the world, it's going to seem like some fans don't respect him. But it's because they're comparing him to the absolute best fighters. Hill is an elite light heavyweight. He is one of the best fighters in the world in that weight class. So when we scope out, we all respect this guy. We all respect Hill for his skills and all this stuff. And where he comes from, Grand Rapids, from pretty much nothing, we respect the come up. We respect what he's able to do with his life outside of the cage. I have a feeling that Hill takes a lot of the fans the wrong way. And it might be that competitive spirit that he talked about. Like, he's a very intense guy during fight week or training camp. And it seems like he takes a lot of things as disrespect from the fans when it's not. Some of it probably is, but I've noticed a lot of it is not. And it's just that way that he portrays it.